In the long days filled with noise and the relentless rhythm of modern life, the human mind often grows weary like a sky coated in cosmic dust. We carry within us too many thoughts that have never been named, too many questions that have never been answered. And sometimes all we truly need is a small, quiet space to breathe, to release, to look back into ourselves within the stillness of night. Tonight, in this 3-hour journey through the cosmos, I invite you to step into another kind of space, softer, deeper, a place where the chaos outside slowly dissolves, giving way to gentle questions about existence, about consciousness, and about the reason we find ourselves here adrift in this vast ocean of stars. As Carl Sagan once said, we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. And perhaps in the unhurried moments ahead, you may begin to feel that truth, not through reasoning, but through the quiet rhythm of your own breath. Let sound imagery and the soft gravity of philosophy guide you into a journey that is as expansive as the universe itself and as tender as the sleep approaching. When night falls, when the noise of the world fades behind a gently closed door, you may begin to sense something small yet undeniably real, a quiet movement within you. A stream of thoughts that has not yet come to rest, like faint meteors gliding across an empty sky. We live in an age where the distance between two breaths sometimes feels greater than the distance between two stars. And it is precisely in this moment that the journey we are about to enter, a journey beyond the solar system, becomes not only a story of astronomy, but also a story of consciousness. In this tender darkness, I invite you to listen slowly. Let each image, each word, each soft rhythm fall into your mind like drifting stardust. No urgency, no pressure. Only a natural flow, the way the universe has moved since its earliest dawn. Human beings have dreamed of worlds beyond the sky for ages, but it was only when Yuri Gagarin spoke the words, "I see Earth." It is so beautiful on his 1961 flight that the dream finally became part of reality. Gagarin did not simply cross the atmosphere, he crossed an invisible boundary. Humanity had long believed it could not touch, much like each of us always carrying some limit we think is impossible until the moment we quietly step beyond it. Then in 1969, when Armstrong left his footprint on the moon, the world realized that human longing had never been confined to the ground. We are born not merely to exist, but to seek meaning, to seek boundaries, and to seek whether life is truly alone in this vast universe. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, those small vessels carrying their humble golden records, left the solar system like silent messages cast into the cold expanse. In Voyager, people didn't see only a scientific mission. They saw something gentler, a reflection of our own search for an answer to loneliness. And then in 2016, Proxima Centauri b appeared, a tiny glow in the sea of night, yet enough to stir the hearts of dreamers. Proxima Ba, a planet within the habitable zone, a place where water may exist. A whisper that says, perhaps we are not the only longing drifting in this vastness. In the quiet of night, it is difficult not to feel a hint of hope, as if a door were opening somewhere far away, not only toward a new world, but toward a new version of ourselves. Nietzsche once wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, one must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. Perhaps it is precisely the chaos within the human soul that compels us to lift our eyes to the sky and dream of the stars that dance beyond reach. To reach that place, Alpha Centauri humanity began shaping technologies that feel both real and dreamlike. Ion engines with their faint but enduring thrust resemble our inner journeys, slow but steady, gentle but never stopping. A kind of patience only weary hearts truly understand. Nuclear pulse propulsion, the bold idea of using small explosions to push a spacecraft forward. It sounds fierce, yet it is also a metaphor for life. Sometimes the greatest upheavals, the most unexpected bursts, are what propel us the farthest. Light sail a sail woven of pure light, a concept so beautiful it feels like poetry more than engineering. A ship carrying no fuel, simply opening its fragile sail and letting light lead the way. In your sleep tonight, perhaps you can do the same, release the unnecessary burdens, and let your dreams carry you onward. Richard Feynman once said, Nature uses only the longest threads to weave her pattern, so each small piece of her fabric reveals the organization of the entire tapestry. Perhaps interstellar travel, even in its infancy, is one of those threads, delicate, persistent, holding within it the architecture of wonder. But the deepest, most beautiful visions are still the ones not yet realized. Warp drive, the idea of bending space-time. Antimatter propulsion, the purest energy humanity has ever conceived. These technologies may not arrive within a few decades, but philosophy whispers that not all dreams are meant to be fulfilled at once. Some dreams exist to remind us that we can reach farther than the eye can see. Carl Jung once wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakes." Interstellar travel, when told in the softness of a bedtime story, is no longer a journey of metal and engines. It becomes an invitation to turn inward toward the forgotten skies within us, waiting to be touched. In the long night, when everything outside has settled, perhaps you too will feel a small shift inside yourself, a sense as though you are standing at the edge of something greater than your own being, an understanding, a peace, or simply a final breath before drifting into sleep. Alpha Centauri is not merely a point on the star map. Alpha Centauri is a symbol, a dream, a reminder that even when you are tired, lost, or finding your way back to yourself, there is always a place to look toward. And perhaps right now, you do not need to go anywhere at all. The journey beyond the solar system may begin the moment you close your eyes. Let sleep carry you onward, slowly, softly. For the universe and your own soul has never been in a hurry. And so after allowing the dream of Alpha Centauri to touch the mind with its gentle quiet, we begin to recognize something as natural as the heartbeat of the universe. Any journey that leads us toward new realms of light must first pass through the dark. The dream of interstellar travel is as delicate as a breath brushing against the night. Yet to sustain it, we must face challenges as vast as the skies it reaches for. In this still moment, you may sense the story shifting, a soft curve guiding us from the bright fields of hope into a deeper space where questions about limits are placed down like stones on the surface of a still lake. Not to trouble us, but to offer the mind a place to slow down, to understand, and to find peace. Interstellar travel at its core is a test of fragility, not the fragility of engineering, but the fragility of life itself. In that immeasurable expanse, cosmic radiation is not only invisible particles of energy, it resembles the uninvited thoughts that drift into every human mind, sudden cold capable of wounding us if we do not learn how to let them pass softly. Micrometeoroids, tiny as dust, yet powerful enough to tear through a spacecraft traveling tens of thousands of kilometers per hour, reflect the small things in daily life, a word, a glance, a fragment of memory that can shake the heart. The universe is large, but the mechanism of hurt remains the same. It comes from what we fail to see in time. Albert Camus once wrote in The Myth of Sisyphus, "The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart." Perhaps that is why we keep going, even knowing that countless trials lie ahead. Not because we are reckless, but because reaching upward is the very nature of the soul. Then there is the matter of a spacecraft surviving for decades in solitude, a challenge not only of physics, but of spirit. For each of us in the long journeys of our own lives knows this simple truth. Endurance is not a state, but a choice repeated over and over. We choose to stand. We choose to continue. We choose to believe in what we cannot yet see. Just as scientists must confront the economic and political weight of an interstellar mission, too immense for any one nation to bear alone, great dreams require more than courage. They require a collective, a resonance, just as in life we go farther when we do not walk alone. From here, the story opens into a truth that is soft yet profound. Interstellar travel is a symbol of collaboration. And within each person, the inner darkness and inner light must learn to coexist to form a harmonious whole. The studies of exoplanets from Proxima b to LHS 1140b, GJ 1214b, or LISA 12b are not merely scientific maps, but maps of the spirit. They remind us that the universe is not a single path. It holds thousands of doors, thousands of possibilities. Perhaps one of those worlds carries the answer humanity seeks. But it may also be that the waiting itself is the answer. Soren Kierkegaard once wrote, "In either or hope is a passion for the possible." And in the long night, as you rest upon a soft pillow, you may feel that hope light warm, gentle enough not to wake you, yet strong enough to lift you. AI. Technologies, the first robotic vessels, and even the idea of von Neumann probes all of them, are like the pathfinders humanity sends ahead. They trade life for time, warmth for cold, so they may open the way for us. And strangely, this mirrors our inner journey as well. Before we can step into a new sky of consciousness, older versions of ourselves always go first, wandering, faltering, leaving signs for the self that is yet to blossom. The universe and the human soul in truth move in the same way. They are sequences of experiments, collisions, and growth. There are no shortcuts, no miraculous leaps, only small steps always moving toward the light. By the end of this chapter, we not only understand the challenges of interstellar travel more clearly, but also find ourselves standing before a mirror wide and deep, reflecting both the fear and the beauty of the road ahead. Yet instead of stirring anxiety, it offers a strange warmth, as if we have just discovered a new reason to trust. Interstellar travel is a challenge. Life is as well, and both invite us to walk slowly with a lighter heart, a longer breath, and the quiet conviction that every long journey is worth it. Let that thought sink gently with you as it prepares to carry us into the next chapter of this voyage, where the signs of life begin to speak softly, just enough for us to hear even with our eyes already closed. After passing through the harsh trials of interstellar travel, the invisible radiation, the tiny yet fearsome meteoroids, the colossal costs that made all of humanity pause to catch its breath, we enter a quieter, softer realm. A realm where the question, "How do we go slowly?" gives way to a much deeper question: what are we going to find? In the stillness that now settles around us, you may sense the narrator's voice shifting like a river that has just rushed through fierce cliffs and now opens into a calm surface silvered by moonlight, slow, gentle, and descending into its deepest quiet. For here we speak of another kind of journey, not the journey of overcoming the dangers of space, but the journey of searching for signs of life within the silence of the cosmos itself. Humanity has always carried within it a quiet ache. Are we truly alone in this sea of stars? A question that belongs not only to science, but to the human spirit. It is the question of long, sleepless nights of gazes lifted toward the sky, moments none of us can entirely explain, yet all of us feel tightening in the chest. Carl Sagan in Cosmos wrote, "Somewhere something incredible is waiting to be known." Perhaps that is why we never stop searching. Today, the James Webb Space Telescope, like a new pair of eyes for humankind, is quietly listening to the faintest breaths of the universe. It looks toward worlds tens or hundreds of light years away, not simply to satisfy curiosity, but to find the smallest hints of life. A trace of oxygen, a whisper of methane, a hint of ozone, a signature of phosphine or ammonia. These tiny molecules mean little on their own, but when they appear in the atmosphere of a distant world, they become a kind of cosmic murmur. Perhaps life was once here, or is here now. Much like the subtle signals inside our own hearts, a memory, a longing, a wound that quietly remind us life is still unfolding within. The farther we look, the clearer it becomes that the universe is not as silent as we once believed. Or perhaps it is speaking in a language we are only just beginning to learn. Breakthrough. Listen, the largest search for technosignatures in history is humanity's attempt to understand that language. Gigantic radio telescopes sweep across the sky, capturing the faintest tremors of radio waves, as if trying to hear whether someone somewhere beyond the darkness is calling out to us. The beautiful thing is this: though not a single extraterrestrial signal has been found, people still continue to listen. And inside that patience lies something profoundly human. Nietzsche in The Gay Science wrote, "In the mountains, the shortest way is from peak to peak, but for that you must have long legs." Perhaps with the universe we are only just learning how to stand. But perhaps what makes this chapter the most serene and sleep-evoking is the expansion of SETI, no longer listening only within the Milky Way, but across 97 other galaxies. Imagine it in the endless dark humanity, small fragile extends its ears millions of light years outward to ask, is anyone there? A question both childlike and magnificent. A question that can stir a gentle tremor in anyone's chest. And in response to all these efforts, there is only silence. But this silence is not as frightening as we imagine. In the night, as you lie down, eyes gently closed, listening to your own breath, silence is not absence. Silence is space. Space for something to begin. Martin Buber and I and thou wrote, all real living is meeting. If the universe has not answered yet, perhaps it is simply because the moment of meeting has not arrived. Our technologies grow sharper with each passing year. New algorithms do more than analyze data, they search for delicate irregularities, much like the mind itself trying to perceive its true emotions amid millions of scattered thoughts. We have not found life, but we are learning to listen to the universe with a rare humility, because sometimes the answer is not the most important thing, it is the listening that matters. When we tell this chapter in a sleep story, we are not merely recounting the great lenses or the grand projects searching for extraterrestrial intelligence. We are telling the story of human beings, of the need to connect, to be seen, to know we are not alone. And even if the universe remains silent, you may still feel that within this silence lies something warm, deep, and very real. As though you were listening to the story of billions of years, and the universe in its own quiet way were listening to you as well. As this chapter closes, we are left without a conclusion, only a feeling, soft light that humanity is still searching, and that this search is what makes the journey so strangely beautiful. And in the moment your eyes grow heavier, your breath softer, you may also realize the search for life in the universe is also the search for life within your own heart. Let that feeling cradle you into the next chapter, slowly, gently, as though the universe were still whispering something you do not yet understand, but can feel clearly with every quiet breath. After following the quiet searches for life across the universe, those solitary glimmers in a sky without answers, you may feel within yourself a subtle slowing, a pause like the moment we stop asking who is out there and begin to wonder, and what about the worlds where life does not exist? What stories do they tell? And it is precisely now, when the mind has settled like a lake after the passing of a soft wind, that we continue toward a blue world. Not because it harbors life, but because it knows how to keep its secrets. A world that has allowed us time and again to misunderstand it. A world with a cold, refined beauty, like a quiet soul folded inward. That world is Neptune. Neptune lies so far away that light itself needs more than 4 hours to reach it. A world on the edge of the solar system. A place where darkness is not the absence of light, but the very nature of the environment, and perhaps that is why this planet becomes a symbol for the hidden depths within each of us. The thoughts never spoken, the emotions not yet shaped, the secrets we hold close just to keep ourselves intact. For decades, Neptune appeared in images dressed in a mesmerizing deep blue. A blue as profound as a bottomless ocean, as dreamlike as a cold, distant memory. But later we learned that was never its true color. It was only enhanced colored more vividly so that its details could be seen. A tender reminder what we thought we saw in Neptune was never quite the planet itself. Just as we sometimes reveal to the world only another version of who we are, brighter, stronger, softer, while our truest selves remain quietly behind the curtain. Nietzsche wrote, "In beyond good and evil, every profound spirit needs a mask." And Neptune in its own way has worn a deep blue mask for many long years. But Neptune's beauty does not lie in its color. It lies in its motion. in the winds that reach 100 km/h, the strongest in the solar system, in the dark spots that appear and vanish like wandering spirits drifting across a frozen sky, in the curious 750K hotspots warming themselves amid a world of ice, an ice giant with places of heat, a cold realm hosting the fiercest storms we have ever known. Within this contrast, Neptune mirrors the human heart in uncanny ways. On the outside calm, serene, chilled. Yet within it, storms swirl endlessly, movements we rarely notice but which quietly shape us every day. And you know it is within these motions that the world becomes alive. Just as we, though we often long for a perfectly peaceful life, truly grow only by passing through our own storms. But Neptune is only half the story. The other half lies in Triton, its strange, frigid, breathtaking moon, beautiful in a way that makes anyone pause. Triton has an atmosphere that shifts with the seasons, thin but still breathing by its own rhythm. And from its frozen surface, nitrogen geysers rise kilometers high, carving gentle patterns across a world that knows how to transform itself, even in silence. It is remarkable to think that in a place so distant, untouched by human footsteps, seasons still exist, changes, cycles, as if to remind us that every form of life or every form of existence has its own rhythm, whether we witness it or not. Henry David Thoreau wrote in Walden, "The universe is wider than our views of it. Perhaps Triton is the quietest evidence of that truth." And then there are Neptune's rings, thin bands of dust and ice, so faint that for decades they look like pale chalk lines drawn across a dark sky. Only when JWST turned its infrared eyes toward them did we finally see their delicate structures clearer than at any point in 30 years. If Saturn represents beauty that is grand, symmetrical, displayed, then Neptune's rings represent a beauty that is reserved, revealed only when we are patient enough to look deeply. And that is also the essence of Neptune's allure, the beauty of things not flaunted, of secrets, not spoken, of silence, holding infinite depth. The data Neptune and Triton offer help us understand the nature of ice giants, those frozen, distant worlds that telescopes are now finding in increasing numbers throughout the universe. But on a philosophical level, Neptune teaches something else, that some forms of beauty bloom only at a distance. Some truths reveal themselves only when we stop trying to control them. And some things can be seen clearly only when we stand far enough away, far enough that the ego no longer clouds the view. Neptune, then, is not just a planet to be studied by science. It is a symbol through which we study ourselves, a cold world teaching us about the warmth of understanding, a distant world teaching us about the closeness of deep reflection, a silent world teaching us how to listen. And now, as the story of Neptune gently closes, you may feel a soft wave moving through the mind, as though the stillness of that planet were slowly unfolding inside you. No hurry, no disturbance. Only enough quiet to carry you into the next chapter of this cosmic journey. A journey in which every world we pass feels like a part of the soul, opening gently, profoundly, and peacefully, like the rhythm that is guiding you towards sleep. After leaving behind the icy realms of Neptune, where the strongest winds in the solar system sweep across the frozen silence of a lonely world, we gently return to something nearer, near enough that the light glinting on rooftops each night reminds us of an ancient companion who has always been there, hanging softly in the sky. If Neptune is the symbol of distance, then the moon is the symbol of familiarity. And perhaps that is why every new step humanity takes upon it carries a different resonance, a resonance both wondrous like cosmic discovery and intimate like finding our way back to a second home. On this deep night, as you loosen your shoulders, let us continue toward the lunar South Pole, a place where sunlight has barely ever touched, where darkness has stretched on for billions of years. A place very still, very cold, and yet very honest. And that is where Chandrayaan-3 touched down. In August 2023, the world watched a moment that seemed simple, yet stirred the consciousness of millions. India, with the Chandrayaan-3 mission, became the first nation to land successfully at the moon's south pole, a place sunlight only grazes at the edges. a place humanity had long been able only to observe from afar, imagine, and hope for. The moment Chandrayaan-3 touched the surface was not merely a victory of engineering. It was a victory of perseverance, of dreaming, of believing that the things no one has ever done will someday be done. Henry David Thoreau once wrote in Walden, "Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you have imagined." And tonight that sentence feels as light as a breath, strangely aligned with the quiet courage of Chandrayaan-3. The lunar South Pole is a world entirely unlike the rest of the moon. Their sunlight touches only a narrow sliver, while most of the terrain lies in eternal shadow. Temperatures can fall to near absolute cold. Every sound disappears. Every movement slows, as though even time hesitates to enter. And in that stillness, the instruments of Chandrayaan-3 began to listen. They detected sulfur, an element rare in other lunar regions, hinting at a geological past more complex than we once imagined. They found traces of iron, titanium, calcium, and other metals. They measured extreme temperature swings just a few centimeters beneath the surface. The warmth dropped by dozens of degrees like a hidden breath beneath a quiet shell. All of these findings, in the end, were the moon's whispers. Whispers we spent decades drawing close enough to finally hear. In that deep silence, Chandrayaan-3 recorded something rare, a lunar quake, a faint tremor of the moon, the first detected in more than half a century. The vibration was so small that had it occurred on Earth, almost no one would have noticed. But on the moon, where everything is silent to the point of absoluteness, any motion becomes a sign of life in the broadest sense, the life of matter, of geology, of planetary history. Friedrich Nietzsche once said in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "All things are in flux." Even a world that seems utterly motionless is shifting in its own way. Though Chandrayaan-3 did not find surface water as some had hoped, its discoveries opened the door to something even more intriguing. The possibility of cold traps regions so cold they preserve water ice for billions of years. The permanently shadowed craters of the lunar South Pole become natural black boxes storing the history of the solar system. No light, no wind, no change. Everything that enters remains forever, much like the deepest memories of the human heart tucked away in dark corners we sometimes forget. But with just a little light, they emerge gently once more. All the data gathered by Chandrayaan-3 now forms the foundation for LUPEX, a collaborative mission between India and Japan designed to probe deeper into the lunar South Pole, drilling meters below the surface, searching for ancient ice and understanding the moon's geological structure more intimately. It is not hard to see that this journey is not only an exploration, but also a metaphor for how humans return to their origins, not by looking outward, but by looking downward, inward, and listening for the faintest tremors, as Carl Jung wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Perhaps the lunar South Pole, dark, cold, still, is much like our own unconscious, hidden, difficult to reach, yet filled with secrets waiting to be uncovered. And as the story of Chandrayaan-3 closes on a soft breath, you may feel something different from the previous chapters. Not the awe of distant worlds, not the tension of wondering whether life exists elsewhere, but the feeling of returning to Earth's oldest companion, returning to the moon that hangs over humanity's memory, returning to a stillness you may be seeking within your own soul. Let that feeling drift gently into your subconscious and prepare to lead you to the next sky of this journey, where the worlds in the Goldilocks zone await places that might cradle life as we have known it, slowly, softly. For sleep and the universe have always known how to wait. After drifting away from Kepler 22b, a distant world wrapped in possibility and hope, you may feel a very gentle resonance rising within you that no matter how vast the universe becomes, humanity always carries a question that is close, familiar, almost intimate. Not is there life elsewhere, but could we ever call another place home? And to seek the answer before stretching our reach toward worlds beyond the solar system. humanity turns back to a red world that has wandered with us since the beginning. A world both near and far, both familiar and mysterious. A world that once held water, once carried winds, once bore cracked mud traces of time that even silence cannot erase. That world is Mars. Mars is not a planet of the present. It is a planet of memory, of what once existed but has been lost. When we look at its brain terrain, those winding patterns resembling folds of a mind, we realize that this world once had wet cycles, once saw flowing water, once experienced movements as soft as life itself. The dust devils, swirling pillars rising hundreds of meters high, drift across the red desert, like shadows of old memories trying to whisper something forgotten. They are not fierce, not destructive, yet persistent, like the unnamed thoughts within us that return again and again for reasons we do not fully understand. And then there is the green glow, a strange emerald light shimmering in the upper atmosphere, a sign not of life, but of a world still breathing in its own quiet way. Put together, these traces make Mars a chapter both melancholic and profoundly beautiful, a world that was once young, once wet, once greener than we imagined, but now finds companionship only in sand and wind. Nietzsche once wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "There must be chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star, and perhaps Mars, though desolate, still keeps a gentle form of that chaos alive at its core." NASA's InSight mission shows us that Mars is not still. The planet still trembles, Marsquakes traveling through solid rock like the heartbeat of an old but unbroken soul. Its core is more complex than we believed. Not entirely cold, not entirely hot, but existing in a transitional state like a spirit shifting from past to future. These tremors, strangely enough, make us feel closer to a distant world. Because somewhere within ourselves we hold similar tremors, subtle quiet movements that remind us we too are still alive. But Mars does not speak only of the past and the present. It speaks of the future, a very real future. MOXIE. A small yet extraordinary device produced oxygen on Mars for the first time by splitting CO2 molecules. A gentle but powerful lesson that even the simplest acts on Earth, like a single breath, can become precious when placed in another world. When MOXIE created oxygen, it was not merely testing technology. It was opening the possibility that one day we might breathe on this planet, not through helmets, but through its own atmosphere. Ingenuity, the tiny helicopter flying in Mars' thin skies, is another symbol. A light flap of wings in air so faint it feels almost like weightlessness. Not strong, not loud, just a quiet affirmation that sometimes the smallest achievements carry the greatest meaning. When Ingenuity lifted off, humanity saw a reflection of itself, small, solitary, but capable of rising even in conditions far from ideal. These milestones lead us to a new chapter of Mars, a future defined by ISRU using local resources. Greenhouses growing plants and dusty winds, habitats heated by water ice, technologies allowing humans to live long-term without constant support from Earth. All of this may sound distant, but like every great journey, it begins with very small steps. And the curious thing is this humanity is not trying to turn Mars into a second Earth. We are learning to live with it, to understand it, to respect its nature. Just as we learn to live with ourselves, not by becoming someone else, but by understanding our scars, our dust, our barren memories, so that even in a desert, we might learn how to bloom. Rainer Maria Rilke once wrote in Letters to a Young Poet, "Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. On Mars and in our own lives, everything is only a temporary chapter. No emotion is final. No state is permanent. No planet is fully dead. And no hope is ever fully extinguished." As the chapter on Mars draws to a close, we do not only learn more about the red planet. We learn more about ourselves, about how we search for signs of life even in places that once died. How we nurture hope even in desolate landscapes, and how small steps like a single breath can open the door to a future. And in the moment you let your eyes grow a little heavier, Mars remains there, not near, not far, gently reminding you everywhere that once held water might once have held life, and every heart that has ever been hurt can be reborn. Let that feeling guide you into the next chapter of this cosmic journey, softly, quietly, like a thin breeze passing through a valley of red sand, leaving behind nothing but stillness. After leaving the dusty red valleys of Mars, where the memory of water lies still beneath frozen soil, and thin winds drift like the quiet breath of an aging world, you may feel a soft settling within yourself. As though after gazing into Mars's ancient past, we are invited to look even farther toward places where the past, present, and future of the cosmos intertwine in brilliant explosions we can witness but never touch. There, the universe is no longer composed of gentle planets or silent moons. There, it becomes a vast stage for the most primal forces, destruction, rebirth, and light. And that is where our journey now leads to the stars that are dying. A supernova is not death. A supernova is transformation. An eruption so powerful it can outshine an entire galaxy, yet also the birthplace of heavy elements, iron, gold, even the atoms within your own body. When a star grows old and collapses into itself, the universe does not call it an ending. The universe calls it the beginning of something else. As Nietzsche wrote in The Gay Science, you must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. And perhaps in these stellar explosions, the universe is doing exactly that on the grandest scale. From chaos, light is born. One star that once drew the attention of the entire world was Betelgeuse, the great red giant of Orion. When Betelgeuse unexpectedly dimmed in 2020, millions believed it was about to go supernova. A star more than 500 light-years away, yet a mere change in brightness was enough to make humanity hold its breath. Strange, isn't it? A small shift in distant light awakening something inside us. A mixture of anxiety and wonder, fear and anticipation. But the truth turned out to be simple. It was only stardust briefly veiling Betelgeuse's surface, a dimming not from death, but from a soft layer of dust. In a very human way, this reminds us not every fading is a sign of ending. Sometimes it is a moment to rest, to hide, to prepare for something greater, or simply to be still. If a supernova is the firework of stellar death, then a gamma-ray burst GRB is the thunder of the universe. GRBs are the most energetic events we know, releasing in seconds more energy than the sun will produce in its entire lifetime. Among them, GRB 2109A has been called the brightest of all time, the most luminous explosion ever recorded by humanity. Though 2.4 billion light-years away, it was still strong enough to disturb Earth's ionosphere. Consider that an explosion that occurred before complex life even existed on Earth, but whose light only reached us a few years ago. It is as if the universe were whispering that events long before our time can still leave marks upon our lives. And likewise, what we do today may travel farther than we will ever know. Carl Sagan wrote in Cosmos, "We are made of star stuff." But stellar explosions add another truth. We are also shaped by ancient upheavals, by eruptions we never witnessed, by tremors that cross the ages. Supernovae and GRBs are not only physical events, they are measures, beacons, milestones that allow scientists to measure cosmic distances, understand the expansion of space, trace the fingerprints of dark matter, and uncover the structures of distant galaxies. But for someone listening on a quiet night, these explosions become intimate metaphors. We all have our own supernovae in life moments that felt like endings, events that seemed to shatter us, pains we believed we could never survive. Yet looking back, we often find that these very explosions created the person we are now. From chaos, we discovered light. From collapse, we built new structure. Nietzsche wrote in Ecce Homo, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." And the universe, through every dying star, seems to echo this truth. In this slow narration, Imagine somewhere far away a star is preparing to explode. It contracts, heats, and then bursts into a brilliance that may cross millions of light years just to reach your eyes. That light has traveled across countless galaxies through endless dark, through time itself to meet you in this moment. And when you take a slow breath in and exhale, you set into motion atoms forged in an ancient explosion billions of years ago. All of this makes you a part of the universe, not in metaphor, but in the literal truth of your own body. As this chapter gently closes, you may feel the rhythm slow soften, as though the universe, despite its violence and vastness, carries a very tender heart, a heart that knows how to create light from turmoil, how to give new life from the ashes of dead stars, how to remind you no ending is ever absolute. And as your eyelids grow heavier, as your breath steadies, as your mind drifts into the quiet threshold between waking and sleep, remember somewhere in the endless dark a star is exploding and its light has just begun a long journey toward you. Let that thought drift with you into the next chapter of this cosmic journey, like a small star dissolving into the night. After quietly witnessing the brilliant explosions of dying stars in the previous chapter, those cosmic fireworks of rebirth, you may feel something unusual rising within you, a sense of things too powerful to fully comprehend, yet too distant to ever touch. And yet the universe is not woven only from light. Across the vastness there are mysteries that do not blaze or burst, mysteries so silent that we must listen with the whole of our being just to notice them. If supernovae are the singing voices of the stars, then Planet 9 is the shadow of a whisper. Planet 9, a world never seen, is one of the most captivating enigmas in modern astronomy. No one knows whether it truly exists, yet the orbits of numerous objects at the edge of the solar system behave as though some invisible force is tugging them aside. An unseen hand, a trace of something that has never revealed itself. A presence felt through influence rather than light. Perhaps this is why so many philosophers have spoken about the existence of the invisible within the visible world. Kierkegaard wrote in The Sickness Unto Death, "The self is a relation that relates itself to itself." And sometimes what we do not see is precisely what defines the nature of everything around it. So it is with the cosmos the unseen may be what shapes the orbits of an entire region of sky. The orbital anomalies of the objects beyond Neptune, collectively called TNOs, cannot be explained by any familiar model. They move as though circling a second center of gravity, located where sunlight is too faint to reflect even the smallest glimmer. And from this, the hypothesis of Planet 9 was born, a planet with a mass 5 to 6 times that of Earth, orbiting the Sun at 200 to 300 AU. To imagine this 1 AU is the distance from Earth to the Sun. 200 AU is 200 times that distance. A realm so cold that light must travel for hours to reach it. A darkness not of night but of primordial shadow, a place where light was never invited. Perhaps this very remoteness is what makes Planet 9 a symbol of questions we cannot yet answer. Questions requiring patience, delicacy, and a willingness to listen. Just as Rainer Maria Rilke wrote in Letters to a Young Poet, "Live the questions now." But what makes Planet 9 even more fascinating is not only the possibility that it is a planet, it is the possibility that it is not a planet at all. One bold hypothesis suggests Planet 9 might be a primordial black hole the size of a basketball, yet weighing tens of thousands of times more than Earth. A black hole, silent, non-luminous, unreflective, hiding in the outer darkness of the solar system. Something impossible to see even with our strongest telescopes. That thought is both terrifying and strangely beautiful. It reminds us that life too contains invisible forces, the black holes within our own inner worlds, shadowed places with no name yet capable of exerting more influence than anything visible on the surface. Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "When you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you." And perhaps somewhere in the cosmic dark Planet 9 is gazing back at us in its own silent way. Still, no matter how alluring the idea, science requires evidence. And evidence for Planet 9 remains a silhouette drifting through fog. The distance is too great, the brightness too faint. The size may be smaller than predicted. Even if it is a planet, it might appear as nothing more than a dim speck swallowed by black sky. This is why large-scale surveys like Pan-STARRS and especially LSST at the Vera Rubin Observatory are essential. LSST will image the entire southern sky over and over for 10 years, creating the largest data set in the history of astronomy. If something is hiding out there, whether planet or black hole, LSST will detect its motion across the nights. A tiny shift, a nearly imperceptible deviation. But for one of the most precise telescopes ever built, those faint movements will be enough. And just like the human mind, sometimes it takes only one small internal shift to reveal that something deeper is happening within us. The mystery of Planet 9 reminds us of the truth: the universe is understood not only by seeing, but by sensing. What we perceive is only a fragment. What we do not see: invisible gravitational pulls, energy fields, black holes, dark matter, shapes the true structure of the cosmos. So too with the soul, what others see is merely the surface. What truly shapes our lives lies in the inner darkness we carry. C.G. Jung wrote in Ion, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And perhaps that is why Planet 9 matters not only to science, but to philosophy. It represents our willingness to face the unknown, the unseen, the outer frontier of awareness. And in tonight's slow, gentle tone, try to imagine somewhere far away in a cold and quiet corner of space, an object is circling the sun in an orbit so vast it takes tens of thousands of years to complete. It drifts silently, without sound, without light. Only gravity, the one thing that cannot be concealed. And even though we have never seen it, its presence may be reshaping the entire solar system. That thought in its own way is beautiful. It tells us that the invisible can still create the visible. And as you listen, your breath slowing, your eyelids growing heavier, you may feel that some mysteries are not meant to be solved right away. Some questions are meant to be lived. As Rilke wrote, be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart. Let the mystery of Planet 9 drift softly through your mind like a distant silhouette dissolving into infinite night and opening the doorway to the next chapter of this cosmic journey. A chapter where the light of icy, distant worlds begins to speak again. After leaving the vast darkness of Planet 9, where silence becomes a kind of language, you may feel something more clearly now that at the edge of the solar system, everything possesses a different kind of beauty. Not radiant, not loud, not asking to be noticed. These worlds exist like the quiet exhalations of the cosmos, gentle, deep, patient. And among these quiet breaths lies a world long forgotten, a world small and unassuming, yet once the light finally touched it, we realized how profoundly beautiful it truly was. That world is Pluto. Pluto was once only a faint point at the rim of the solar system. A name sitting at the end of lists, a place where sunlight grows so weak it becomes more memory than illumination. But as in every story of silent waiting, there was one patient eye watching it. In 2015, after traveling nearly 5 billion kilometers, the New Horizons spacecraft sent back humanity's first close images of Pluto. And that tiny world grew immense in our emotions. Those images revealed that Pluto is not a simple frozen rock. It has water ice mountains rising kilometers high. It has vast plains of nitrogen ice flowing slowly like quiet rivers under a pale, distant sun. It has an atmosphere so thin it seems almost imaginary, yet it shifts with the seasons, breathing delicately. These discoveries remind us that beauty often lives in the places we least expect. As G.K. Chesterton wrote in Orthodoxy, "The world will never starve for want of wonders, but only for want of wonder. The universe has never lacked miracles. Sometimes we simply forget to look." And Pluto is not alone. It has Charon, a moon so large relative to its host that Pluto's center of orbit, lies not within Pluto itself, but in the space between them, a rare binary system. Pluto and Charon circle each other like two quiet dancers in the cold winter of space, holding one another in perfect balance, neither dominant, neither submissive. A relationship not built on control, but on sharing something humanity often forgets. Their connection brings to mind Martin Buber's words, "In I and thou all, real living is meeting." In the deep cold of space, Pluto and Charon remind us that life in its deepest sense is measured by the ability to encounter another. After leaving Pluto, New Horizons continued farther and met Arakoth, an object so small it resembles a toy model. Yet it opened a revolution in our understanding. It turned out that planets and planetary bodies do not always form through violent collisions. Arakoth revealed that some primordial objects grew by gently merging, by literally embracing one another in calm, slow unions. No destruction, no chaos, a tender formation, a growth without harm. This gentle truth echoes the words of Lao Tzu in Tao Te Ching: "Nothing is softer than water, yet nothing can resist it." Real strength often arrives through softness, not force. Looking back at New Horizons' journey, we see that it too is a metaphor for a human life. Launched in 2006, drifting silently through space for 9 long years. Alone, no turning back, unseen, unheard, unmentioned, until the moment it reached Pluto and changed humanity's understanding forever. Some journeys in life are like that quiet, lonely, unrecognized, until the instant they reveal something extraordinary. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." Perhaps the long voyage of New Horizons through cold, through darkness, was the necessary chaos that allowed it to bring forth the dancing star of Pluto in our collective imagination. In the future, missions returning to Pluto will be far more ambitious. Spacecraft powered by ion engines will glide through space like leaves drifting across a still lake. Complex orbital maneuvers will let ships loop around Charon, using its gravity as a springboard to dive deeper. A world once considered insignificant is now the center of new dreams, and that is beautiful and fair, because the things neglected longest often hold the most astonishing truths. In this slow narration, try to imagine you are standing atop an icy mountain on Pluto. There is no wind, no sound, only the pale blue light of the sun, small as a fading star, falling softly upon the muted surface of the nitrogen ice sea below. Here, at the farthest edge of the solar system, stillness becomes a tangible substance. You can feel it, you can touch it, and you can hear it, as though Pluto is whispering something only the listening heart can understand. A reminder that even at the very margin of existence, there is life in its own form. Not biological life, but the life of meaning. And as you breathe deeply, the slow rhythm of the cosmos merges with your breath. You realize this distance does not diminish value. Silence does not erase meaning. And small things are never trivial. Pluto, the forgotten world, has taught us that. Let that lesson drift gently with you into the next chapter, where hexagonal storms, icy rings, and moons with hidden oceans are waiting to share their stories. The journey continues, and the night is still long. After leaving the small yet profound world of Pluto, where silence becomes a form of beauty, we drift farther into a realm of symbols. Pluto teaches us that smallness does not diminish worth. But when our gaze moves forward, we encounter another world, a world whose beauty is so vast, so perfect, it feels almost impossible. A world that makes you understand at a single glance why humanity once used the word heaven to describe the cosmos. That world is Saturn. Saturn appears in the human imagination as a symbol of elegance. Not the violence of a supernova, not the distant cold of Pluto, but a gentle, balanced, poetic beauty so perfect it makes many ask, why would the universe create something so flawless? When the Cassini spacecraft first entered Saturn's orbit, humanity fell silent. Before us was not merely a giant gas planet, but a work of art. Saturn's rings, which have enchanted poets, musicians, and philosophers for thousands of years, turned out to be surprisingly young, only about 400 million years old. and they may be slowly disappearing grain by grain in a ring rain falling softly into Saturn's atmosphere. That fragility makes Saturn even more beautiful, for beauty always carries the imprint of fading. As John Keats wrote in Ode on a Grecian urn, beauty is truth, truth beauty. Saturn is a living testament to that, a beauty that exists yet not forever. At Saturn's north pole lies something even stranger, a hexagonal storm. A shape so perfect that scientists first believed it must be an error. But no, the storm truly has 6 sides stable, immense, unchanging over decades. An atmospheric vortex obeying absolute geometry. Many philosophers adore Saturn for this very storm. It is proof that the universe is not ruled only by chaos, but also holds within it a hidden order, a balance humans have long sought in their own souls. Nietzsche wrote in The Birth of Tragedy, "There is an order of things beyond our understanding." And Saturn, through its slowly turning hexagon, whispers of that invisible order. But Saturn's beauty does not come only from its rings or its perfect storm. It comes from the small worlds orbiting it, worlds that carry humanity's first real hopes of life beyond Earth. Among them, Titan is the strangest, most beautiful, and most bewildering. Titan has lakes and seas of liquid methane, a world where rain is not water, rivers are not water, oceans are not water. A world where life, if it exists, would follow a logic entirely different from our own. Titan is a mirror reminding us that life, like philosophy, is not limited by familiar forms. What matters is not predicting life based on what we know, but opening ourselves to the possibility that the universe creates in ways our imagination has never touched. And then there is Enceladus, an icy moon hiding an ocean tens of kilometers deep. A world where Cassini witnessed plumes of water shooting into space, carrying salt minerals and simple organic molecules. Each plume is like a whisper from the ocean beneath the ice, as though Enceladus is saying, "I am alive, even if you cannot see me." This feeling brings to mind Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's words in The Little Prince. What is essential is invisible to the eye. The essence of life and the essence of Saturn lies in what cannot be seen. Layers of ice, quiet methane seas, hidden oceans trembling softly together, forming an ecosystem Cassini once described as a miniature world of habitability. Saturn is no longer a planet. It is a universe in miniature. In this slow narration, imagine yourself floating above Saturn's rings. No sound, no wind. Only millions of tiny ice particles spinning, shimmering in the pale gold sunlight of the distant sun. These particles, each one, are like memories, some bright, some faint, some broken and reformed, but all of them slowly falling into Saturn's atmosphere, dissolving into space the way human memories fade over time. No one can hold everything forever. Not Saturn, not us. But true beauty does not live in permanence. It lives in transience and in the grace of having witnessed it. And as you take a slow breath in and exhale, you may feel something subtle that Saturn, with all its beauty and fragility, is guiding you toward the closing arc of this journey. Titan, where life might be utterly different. Enceladus, where a hidden ocean longs to speak. The rings, exquisite yet dissolving. The hexagon order within chaos. All of them blending like a lullaby of the cosmos. A lullaby whispering. No matter how vast the universe becomes, there will always be places that remind you of yourself. And Saturn, in its quiet elegance, invites you to drift into the final piece of tonight. Let its slow rotation guide you toward stillness, toward sleep, toward the gentle meeting place between mind and cosmos. And now, as this long journey comes to a close, as we drift away from Saturn's hexagonal storm, from the hidden oceans of Enceladus, from the ice-blue mountains of Pluto, and from the distant shadows where Planet 9 still awaits its name, only one thing remains here with you close. Quiet, present, your breath. These past 3 hours we have traveled across space, but in truth we have been traveling inward as well. For every planet, every stellar explosion, every stretch of darkness in the cosmos is a metaphor for what unfolds within the human soul. There are places that shine like supernova moments when we finally find an answer. There are places faint like Pluto parts of ourselves long forgotten. There are worlds full of possibility like Titan hopes we have not yet found the courage to name. And there are silent, unseen regions like Planet 9, the deepest corners of the mind, the ones we visit only when the night is quiet enough. This cosmic journey in its own way is simply a mirror reflecting the journey within you. As Carl Sagan wrote in Cosmos, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." Perhaps that is why every time we look into the universe, we see ourselves a little more clearly. Now, as your eyes begin to close, as your breath softens like the wind across Titan's lakes, as your mind settles like the frozen plains of Pluto, let the stillness wrap around you, slow, gentle, tender. There is no need to think anymore, no need to search for answers. For sometimes, as Rilke wrote in letters to a young poet, live the questions now. The most beautiful questions are the ones we live with, not the ones we solve. Let tonight close like a soft door, carrying you into a quiet sleep where the stars above are no longer distant, but become tiny notes of music leading you into peace. And when you wake tomorrow, perhaps you will feel the universe a little wider and your own heart a little wider too. Thank you for staying until the end of this journey. May your sleep be deep, gentle, and serene as though the entire universe were falling asleep beside you.